What's going on, y'all? This is Dana Polk Jr., Master Executive 8, and this is part 2 of the principle of mentalism. And as I've stated before, this is further laying down the principle of mentalism. We are talking about the practical application. However, I found that the practical application works better in the principle of correspondence. So this part 2 is just further laying the foundation for the principle of mentalism, and it's going to make it easier once we start moving into the practical steps. All right, so we're going to get into it. I'm just going to smudge real quick just to cleanse the space as the smoke gently drifts through the air. So do all worries and cares evaporate back in the source. I ask the sacred smoke to help me release all that is stagnant and stuck, cleanse the space, raise the vibration of all that it touches. So shall it be. Then a little Palo Santo, cleanse up the space too. Right. Alright, cool. So let's get into it. So the principle of mentalism is the principle by which all the other principles are built on. Um, Mind as well as metals and elements may be transmuted from state to state, from degree to degree, and from condition to condition, pole to pole, vibration to vibration. True hermetic transmutation is a mental art. So we know that transmutation means the changing of one state to another. So we understand that in alchemy, this involves metals. But what exactly does this mean in the case of mental states? So what is a mental state? A mental state can be seen as the dominant thoughts that have taken root in your mind. These thoughts that have taken root have been given that power largely by what your attention has been focused on. So what you pay attention to a majority of the time can also um, be seen as your mental state. Also, because your thoughts and emotions are interconnected, your mental state will also include the emotions that stemmed from the thoughts and will show in your inclination towards one pole or the other. Sorry, guys. This thing is way too close to my face. Yeah, I got this because somebody had complained that they couldn't really hear me like that. So I want to make sure you guys can hear me. So a mind full of lack cannot produce abundance. So feelings of happiness or joy. Um, I'm sorry. So a mind full of lack cannot produce abundance. So the opposite of lack is something called compersion, which is the feeling of happiness or joy because of the happiness or joy of another person, and that cannot arise from a mind full of jealousy. So wealth cannot arise from a mind full of poverty, and you get what I'm saying. These positive thoughts cannot come from a negative mentality. So transmutation is the vehicle that we can use to bring us from one side of the pole to the other. The changing from one state to another happens through transmutation. So not only may the mental states, etc., of oneself be changed or transmuted by hermetic methods, but also the states of others may be and are constantly transmutated in that same way, usually unconsciously, but often consciously by some understanding the laws and principles. In cases where the people affected are not informed of the principles of self-protection. Sorry, y'all. Let me see if I can. I'm had to get something I don't know, maybe a little bit bigger because my hair is growing, so it's like sitting on top. But anyway, so the mind has two parts. The mind has two parts, which most of the world are now familiar with, but still doesn't utilize as intentionally as we could. So those two parts of the mind are the conscious and the subconscious mind. So what is the conscious mind? The conscious mind contains the things that we are aware of. It includes all of the things we are thinking about with awareness. If you were to compare the conscious mind with a computer, it would be considered, it would be similar to the RAM or the random access memory of a computer. So what do we use the conscious mind for? Our conscious minds are associated with the frontal lobe, and that is responsible for initiating and coordinating motor movements, higher cognitive skills such as problem solving, thinking, planning, organizing, and for many aspects of personality and emotional makeup. So the second part of our minds are the subconscious or the unconscious. So your subconscious mind controls all the vital processes and functions of the body. It never rests. It never sleeps. It never takes a break, unlike the conscious mind. So, some examples of subconscious functions are the heartbeat, blood circulation, and the regulation of digestion and elimination. So, even when you're asleep, the subconscious mind is still listening and processing information. So, without the subconscious always operating in the background, we would perish. Like for sure. Like if I had to think about every time I had to breathe, or I had to think about every time I had to make my heart beat, or digestion, any one of those processes, I'll totally be dead. So the subconscious mind is akin to the ROM in a computer, constantly running programs and processes in the background. So according to cognitive neuroscientists, we are conscious of only about 5% of our cognitive activity. So most of our decisions, actions, emotions, and behavior depends on that 95% of brain activity that goes beyond our conscious awareness. So this number, it varies depending on where the information is coming from, but the common theme is that a majority of our cognitive activity is unconscious or subconscious. So although our subconscious is responsible for our internal functions, it manifests externally in many forms. For instance, you got terms like it's like riding a bike, right? So this saying has roots in the functioning of the subconscious mind. When you're first learning to ride a bike, it may take a large effort of your conscious mind to push off, to pedal, to stay balanced, to steer, to brake. However, once all of these things are mastered and have been programmed into the subconscious, you could not ride a bike for years. And then, if for whatever reason a time arises where you have to ride a bike, it'll be like the skill never left. You just hop right on that bike and just ride off. So, habits are like programs, like a computer program uh, that we download into our computer. So, we perform habits so many times that once they're programmed into our subconscious, they run on autopilot. So, what you might think of as having your having your morning coffee, yeah, is more of a subconscious habit than a conscious decision to have coffee. So psychologists and psychiatrists point out that when thoughts are conveyed to your subconscious mind, impressions are made in your brain cells, and as soon as your subconscious accepts any idea, it accepts it through a constant impression. It proceeds to put it into effect immediately. So probably by now you're wondering like, well, all right, so like how do I use my subconscious mind to my benefit? Now that we know that 95% of our cognitive functions are controlled by our subconscious, and the habits that we have are from thoughts impressed in it, we realize that what we have in our reality is a result of our patterns of thinking stored in our subconscious mind. So our very lives are manifestations of our subconscious mind. So if there is any area of your life that has undesirable circumstances, then there is a matching subconscious belief held in the mind. A large portion of the patterns or programs running in our subconscious are due to what's called heterosuggestion. So heterosuggestion is simply the suggestions received from another person. That same 95% that we're talking about happens a lot earlier than we think. In fact, from birth until the age of 7, we are in somewhat of a hypnotic state and have been heterosuggested to that whole time, like unconsciously. So, this is where the results in our lives come from. I mean, a majority of the time, and it's no accident that some of us struggle with things while others find certain things to be a breeze. These successful children were probably at a young age are fed positive suggestions in the areas of their creativity, status, and intellect. And the manifestation of success later in life is not always a result of transmutation, but of positive suggestions about success received at a young age. Basically, what I'm saying here is like, some children were programmed at a young age for success, and others were programmed, for failure. You know what I'm saying? And not to say that we can't change at some point in life, but it'll be easier for you if you start out a certain way versus having to reprogram and change yourself to, what I'm saying, to change your patterns. So some examples of positive heterosuggestions are uh, money is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Whereas though the opposite, some of us here, especially if you come from a religious background, that money is the root of all evil, which is actually that's a very misinterpreted scripture because they forget to add the part where it says the love of it. You know what I'm saying? But to be rich is a good thing. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of times when we're, some of us are younger, we're not taught that being rich is a good thing. We're taught that, people say things like, "Oh, money isn't everything," and you know what I'm saying, and all the man, I literally got neighbors right now that I limit the amount of time that I talk with them. It's pretty much just on a high and by thing because the minute we start talking, they start talking about things like that. They start talking about people in the suburbs. You know what I mean? And how they're this and they're that and and rich people this and all of that. Like, man, you just stay away from that. You know what I mean? Because most of the time those people don't know what they're talking about, and then most of them don't have any money. I mean, so stay away from people that with that kind of conversation where they talk about money as a bad thing. Like money is a tool, man. That's all it is. So and to those same people that quote the Bible, you know what I mean, there's literally a scripture in there that says that money is the solution to all problems. So yeah. Um And like I said, for the opposite, the same as possible. So if the hetero suggestion you received as a youngster about success from your parents, siblings, family, or whoever it was about failure, then that's most likely what you'll manifest later in life if you don't transmute that energy at some point. Like, and remember, I'm talking about transmutation here, but a lot of people do this unconsciously. Like, they don't think, oh, this is me transmuting. Like, no, they just make a decision that I'm not going to live this way anymore. So, like, is what I'm talking about necessarily needed? Not really. You know what I mean? Like, you know what to do. You know what I'm saying? This is, I'm a very systematic person. I like to learn things in a systematic way and create systems for myself and others. So anyway, so some examples of heterosuggestion attributed to failure are the misunderstood scripture, like I was saying, the love of money is the root of all evil. Rich people are bad people, and like there's some virtue in being poor. Even that idea of poor, I think is misunderstood. But most people will find like because they're poor, they don't have any money. Like they see virtue in that. You know what I'm saying? And it's just kind of like, well, if our God is abundant, then we should be too. So if we are lacking and in poverty, then I don't know what kind of God we really serving. So The subconscious mind's job is not to argue with you. It's not going to debate you. It's not going to question you. And this is why jokes, I use jokes in particular because a lot of people joke about not having money, joke about being broke, joke about, and it's like your subconscious mind don't care if it's a joke or not. It's not laughing. It feels no emotion. It's just, oh, okay, we broke. All right, cool. Let's manifest brokenness. You know what I'm saying? We poor. All right, let's manifest. It don't care, yo. It's like a soldier that just takes orders. Like, it's the best kind of soldier because it don't question. Like I was in the military, but if I got a certain order from higher up that I felt like would probably like maybe wasn't beneficial for me, like might put me in danger, so I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? Your subconscious mind doesn't do that. Even if it hurts you, it will take the suggestion. You know what I'm saying? So its only job, like I said, similar to a soldier who carries out orders, is to carry out orders that you give it, whether knowingly or unknowingly. So you can look at the conscious mind as like the driver of the car. The conscious mind is driving the car, and the subconscious mind is the car itself. So when you're turning that steering wheel, your car doesn't say, "Hey, I want to go this way." Well, not yet. Not yet it doesn't. But your car doesn't say, "Hey, I want to go this way." No, it turns the way you turn it. It doesn't care if you turn it and you drive it off a cliff, and it doesn't care if you turn it and you just make a right turn at a light. It's going to turn. So it just does what it's told. So the when, so the first two parts about mentalism is just to further help you understand the principle, and we're going to talk about its application and the application of correspondence. So my goal here was just to help you understand transmutation and why we transmute and the two parts of the mind. So that's all this was. Quick, just further explanation of the principle of mentalism. So now moving forward, after since we've laid the foundation, we're going to talk about the rest of the principles and their application.